Okay, so I found this weird thing at the thrift store. It looked like it was somebody's DIY project because it looked like this was stenciled or painted on here somehow. I couldn't figure out what the holes on the top were originally supposed to be, but I had an idea, and honestly, it's just a block of wood with holes drilled at the top. So and if you have a piece of wood and you can drill some holes on the top, you could very easily replicate this project. At first, I was going to paint it. And again, I thought this was just like the word was stenciled on, but it almost seemed like it was vinyl, but it definitely wasn't peeling off. So maybe it was permanent vinyl. I don't know. I don't have a Cricut machine or anything like that. So I'm not as familiar. But as I started painting this front, I realized that I'm going to have to cover it with paper in order to have it look nice, because otherwise you would just see the word believe, which is fine, but that's not what I was going for in this project. But I definitely liked the turquoise color and the distressing that the person did on this wood project. So I wanted to keep some of that spirit. So I have this wrapping paper. It's pretty thin, but you could use scrapbook paper. That's the only thing, when you're using a thin paper, it makes it a little challenging to Mod Podge something on. But I found this piece of paper, and I knew I could cover up those words, because even if this was thin, it was going to be thick enough, especially once I got it Mod Podged on top, to cover that up. So I'm just cutting a section of the paper that I thought was like the prettiest, and I'm just using my trusty matte Mod Podge. I always buy the huge jar of it, and it lasts forever. So that's what I ended up doing here. But again, I'm leaving some of that turquoise color coming through, and then I put that parchment colored chalk paint on top on the other sides, because I did want it to look good from all angles, but I knew this front and this believe word needed to go away. So I'm just going to get this Mod Podged on top, just kind of a thin layer, let it dry. When you're working with a thin paper, you tend to get a lot more wrinkles, so just be prepared for that. There's not really, I haven't found a trick that gets rid of the wrinkles. Here it is. I ended up just kind of tearing the edges, distressing a little bit, and here's where I go a little crazy. So I knew it had kind of holes on the top, but I wanted to make the holes a lot bigger. So I'm just taking my Ryobi drill. I love that thing. I have a Ryobi glue gun I use, because I love how you can easily just swap out the battery between everything. And I'm not a big power tool person, but here is here's a little project. So I added these pretty pieces of greenery. I found this bird's nest at Michael's. They usually put these out like pre-Easter, or you can get them post-Easter on clearance. But I knew that I didn't like the pink bird, so I was going to give the bird a little bit of a make under and make it a little less obvious Easter pink. So I wet my brush, and then I'm going into the same chalk paint, and I'm just going to disguise this pink a little bit. I don't mind that this bird is pink so much, but it seemed too neon pink for this project. And I ended up gluing all those pieces of greenery and floral inside, but you really don't have to do that. If you were going to replicate this, you could leave those holes, just stick in whatever you want, so you could change out your florals over time. But I knew that I wasn't going to change this out. But I'm just going through this bird, and just giving it a little bit, like I said, of a make under, and trying to still keep the eyes looking nice, but it needed definitely some toning down, because that pink was just way too bright. So I think this was a really fun project, super simple. Like I said, you don't have to have this exact thing, but you could very easily replicate this. And I even thought after the fact that I could go back and add some moss in those holes as well, if you wanted to disguise that, because I ended up not painting those holes that are black. If I had to do this over again, that's probably what I would change. But I'm just going to add this little bird's nest in here, and this is pretty much it, guys. This was a quick and simple one, so I hope it inspires you when you find something, at the thrift store that someone else made, and maybe give it another shot. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.